Hello, so I may get up in the middle of this, but this is another one of my resources for the college. Um, it's from a book. It says Attachment Theory in the John Bowlby Memorial Lecture, 2013, A Short History. So, and this is chapter 1 from the book. This year marks 20 years since the first John Bowlby Memorial Lecture was given by the Colin Murray Parks on the theme of mourning and loss. So it's been just highlighting that. That was a fitting recognition of Bowlby's great contribution to the understanding of human grief and sadness, when his clinical observation of separation and loss laid down the foundation for the attachment theory. This year's lecturer is Edward Kowinski, a pioneer of how addiction has come to understand as a process of self-medication, which has fundamentally unchanged the way it is treated. He's a clinical professor of psychiatric of Harvard Medical School and one of the founders of the American Academy of Addiction Psychiatry. His view is that people who are addicted are in need of being understood, not so much as pleasure seekers or self-destructive characteristics, but more as individuals who are in pain and seek and need contact and comfort. The roots of addiction, in his view, lie in early attachment and related trauma. In the years which have followed, the first conference in 1993, attachment theory, in the words of Cassidy and Shaver, has produced one of the broadest, most profound, and most creative lines of research in the 20th century. 20th century psychology. Nevertheless, given the hostility of the psychoanalytic establishment of Bowen's ideas, it has been in the last 2 decades, during which there have been dramatic advances in the congruent discipline of infancy research and related psychoanalysis, that the clinical relevance of attachment theory has been unquestionably established. Indeed, it has been the development of the clinical applications in tandem with its evolution congruency with psychoanalysis and trauma theory that has been the center of our practice of the Bowdoin Center. Looking back, our very early links with Bowdoin's work were forged by one of our founders, John Southgate, who had clinical supervision with John Bowlby. Bowlby's understanding of the nature of human relatedness became primary in our theoretical framework and practice. It is contribute directly to our emergence as an attachment-based psychoanalytic center in 1992. In 2007, the John Bowlby's Memorial Conference marked the century of John Bowman's birth of 1907. One of the outstanding psychoanalysts of 20th century as a theory builder and reformer, his societal impact and influence on social policies have been greater than any other. He has been described by Diamond and Blatt as the Dickens of psychoanalytic theory. He illustrated the human experience of attachment and loss as vividly as Dickens represents those of poverty and deprivation. The origin of Bowlby's work lay in his early work with children displaced through war of institutionalization. This led him to the conviction that at the heart of traumatic experience lay parental loss and prolonged separation from parents. His landmark report for the World Health Organization, Maternal Care and Mental Health, enabled him to establish definite and primary link between environmental trauma and the disturbed development of children. With these understandings, he entered the public arena to bring with change in a way childhood suffering was addressed by the adult world. Bauman's work created a bridge over the chasm between individual and social experience, and hence between the personal and the political. There is a congruence between the social and therapeutic perspectives of Bowden and the John Bowman Memorial Lecturer. In 2008, Judith Herman, author of Father-Daughter Incest and Trauma and Recovery. She too has directed her life work to the restoring of connections between the private and public worlds in which traumatic experience takes place, but her focus has been on the traumatic experience that takes place in adulthood. She has shown that parallels between private tremors such as rape and domestic violence and public tremors such as political terrorism. Her conceptual framework for psychotherapy and traumatized people points to the major importance of attachment. In the empowerment of the survivor, she writes, recovery can take place only with the context of relationships. It cannot occur in isolation. Bowlby had also sought to bridge the chasm between clinician and researcher. His preparedness to leave the closed world of psychoanalysts of his time in order to make links with other disciplines such as animal studies and academic psychology was vital in the building of attachment theory. The documented and filmed sequence of children's responses to separation in terms of protest, detachment, and despair, as researched by James Robertson, provided evidence of separation anxiety. The impact of these ideas on the development of care of children in a hospital has been enormous. The 2001 John Bowlby Memorial Lecturer Michael Rutter discussed institutional care and the role of the state in promoting recovery from neglect and abuse. His lecture was a testament to the continuing relevance of Bowlby's thinking in contemplatory social issues. Although Bowlby joined the British Psychoanalytic Society in the 1930s and received his training from Joan River and Melanie Klein, he became increasingly skeptical of their focus on the inner fantasy life of a child rather than real life experience, intended towards what would now be termed a relational approach. Thus, in search for a theory which could explain the anger and distress of separated young children, Bowlby turned to disciplines outside of psychoanalytical, such as etymology. He became convinced of the relevance of animal and particularly primate behavior to our understanding of the normal process of attachment. These relational concepts presented a serious challenge to the closed world of psychoanalysts in the 1940s and earned Bowlby the hostility of his erstwhile colleagues of several decades. Sorry, just looking how long this is. Probably a little too long to read the whole thing, but you get the idea, because my homework was actually to summarize this. So, you get the idea of it's about the original Bowlby attachment theory and how it has evolved over time with different lecturers thrown in, and how it is a fundamental thought now in the 20th century. So thank you for watching. Hello. So this is the end of another one of my videos that I've been making for myself mostly. I've learned a lot of different skills and also been able to do some of the ones I already knew. Like, I knew how to pump gas, but being able to do it step by step was kind of interesting. Same with laundry. So even though I'm doing these for myself, it does help me. If people, like, subscribe, whatever. If you like the video, comment. If there's a topic that I didn't think of that might be interesting, just let me know. I might do it if it's something that, interests me. But that's all. So thanks for watching.